As my CTO friend, we've sadly seen it too many times. Promising startups with every reason to succeed brought down by a bad relationship. Just like in a healthy couple, a startup team must be on the same page, and it's important to figure out why CEOs and techies fall out. We're diving into just that today to help you avoid conflict with providers. Hi, I'm Michi, content director and co-founder at MyCTOfriend, where founders come to learn how to build their tech startup. Whether you're listening to our podcast or watching us on YouTube, welcome. Now, I'm sure you've heard lots of stories about non-tech founders and how they ran into conflict with their developers, and some of them even losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. Why does this happen? Well, people love to antagonize either party. So if you want to blame it on the CEOs, you can just go ahead and say, well, CEOs and founders are looking to exploit people and they want to take developers' hard-earned code and not pay them for it. And then you have people who antagonize developers as well. So saying that developers take advantage of how founders don't know about tech and they overcharge and underdeliver. Sure. I mean, not everyone is nice in this world. I'm sure there's some truth to what people are saying in certain cases. But for the most part, for the rest of the world, for most people who believe in earning an honest living and being properly and fairly, compensated for it, it's nobody's fault, honestly. Yeah. 9 out of 10 times, conflict arises because both sides lack skills. That's pretty much it. While you compensate for this, while you try to figure out what to do, if you're both lacking skills, that just becomes a frustrating process and it creates a lot of tension between both parties. A very good example of this is how developers, right, tend to be experts in one or two areas. Just one or two areas, okay? So some founders, and this might be you, figure out after they've developed an MVP or a prototype that they could have had the same product for a much smaller budget. But again, this is not really a scam. Most people are not looking to scam you. This is probably a lack of skill or lack of knowledge on the developer's part. Maybe they didn't know what technology would suit your product best. They just did what they knew how to do, what they knew it would work, and that's it. If that went out of budget or if it made you spend too much, there's other reasons for this, not just because the developer wanted to scam you. It's usually not the case, and we'll discuss how to avoid this in the future, in just like later on in this episode. So number 2, pretty much CEOs and developers speak completely different languages. You have a CEO who speaks business. You talk about market understanding, market fit, your customer persona, your profitability, investors, equity, all of that. That's CEO language. And then you have a developer who speaks tech, okay? And they're interested in completely different things on how to make features happen, a programming language, a framework, classes, objects, and methods, how to do the same thing but nicer, with less code, more elegantly, creative ways of doing the same thing. And this is famously something that startup founders and CEOs don't really care about or are not as interested in. Because, it's perfectly fair, like you want to have the thing done. You don't care how you do it. Just get it done. And that's just a completely different approach on both sides. Conflicts arise when both parties expect the other person to think or communicate in your terms. Okay, you cannot expect a developer to make decisions based on your market understanding or your persona definition, because that is not the language that they speak. That is not how they think. That is not their approach. And that's okay. It's not their job. They're not supposed to have that approach. In the same line of thinking, a developer shouldn't expect a CEO to make business-related decisions on the on the IT architecture of the project, for example. That doesn't make any sense for a business profile. So, of course, misunderstandings are going to happen. It's going to become conflict. And we'll see how to make this go away. Number 3, it's hidden features. Let's assume that you as a founder are wanting to create a marketplace. So the developer just evaluates your quote based on the usual screens that a marketplace has, like a sales page, entering a new product, etc. However, it's the hidden part of the iceberg that does the most damage. The back office, the payment management system, the complaint management system, if you need to issue a refund, all of that. So every single one of those things has their own screens and has their own functionalities within your solution. So it's going to be a lot more work than what you actually discussed and not enough time or money to afford it. So this situation, of course, creates tension and it brings out a lack of empathy on both sides. And this brings us back a little bit to you guys speaking a different language, different languages. A developer has no idea how hard it is to get funds, right? So when they ask for more time or more money, like a CEO flips out, like, what? Are you serious? You need more time, more money? Do you have any idea how hard that is? I already have deadlines. I already have loans. I already have equity on the line. All of these things are frustrating for a CEO, and they bring out very clearly that a developer has no idea what you're up against. But the same goes on the other side. When a CEO asks so nonchalantly, like, hey, I want to have this a completely different way, a CEO has no idea how much a developer would have to change in order to change that feature. They don't know, like, okay, but you would have to have this can't be an object here. This has to be a different class. Like, you have no idea how much I have to change. And it brings out a distinct lack of empathy from the CEO to the developer because you guys are not living in the same world. You're not speaking the same language. You don't understand each other's problems. And this is going to create tension and conflict, like we've seen it. So what you want to do is to avoid these problems in the first place, okay? You don't want this to happen at all. So to have an initial contract that you can actually stick to and won't lead to frustration, here's what you can do. First thing to do is search for existing and well-known technology, proven technology, okay? Most of the time, there are technologies that integrate 80 to 90% of what you need. Don't reinvent the wheel if you can get these technologies, okay? So search for those solutions before asking any developer for any custom software. Number 2, don't get stuck with proprietary development. Now, there's too many providers that have something they've worked on for years, and they are not willing to give it up that easily. And as a startup, that's just best to avoid. It's best to avoid becoming dependent on developers who sell their existing technology and won't give you the source code. Regardless of what your solution is, it has to belong to your company, and you need to be able to make any changes on it. And that's why you should do number 3, which is ask your developer from the start to work on your own source code repository. So just in case you run into conflict, just in case things don't work out with a certain developer, you still have what you've paid for so far if they're properly doing it, if they're properly doing and working on your source code repository. Number 4 is specify all the screens you need. Try not to forget anything. I do mean specify all the screens you need, okay? Like I mentioned before, the hidden part of the iceberg, so back office pretty much, is what does the most damage. So anticipate those needs, communicate them promptly to your developer. Not last minute, not when money's running out and time's of the essence, promptly. And last but not least, number 5 is set small milestones, each with its own budget. So if things aren't working out, if you're falling slightly outside of budget, if you have those numbers to compare to and you realize, hey, things aren't working out, you should be ready to switch developers almost at every milestone, okay? You have those numbers there, so you're not making this up. If something doesn't feel right and you're not reaching your goals, you have your source code repository, right? That's what it's for. So you can change developer if things aren't working out. So anyway, to sum it all up, beware of miscommunication, okay? And no, that is not a broadcaster's beauty pageant, but that is a very good name for a broadcaster's beauty pageant if someone's out there who's interested. Miscommunication is the name of your startup's Achilles heel. It's the thing that's going to run your business to the ground before it even gets a chance to lift off, okay? We know because of lack of communication that startups fail. Developers have the issue that they do not understand market. They don't understand business. And founders have the issue that they don't understand tech. So they stray away from product management because they don't feel apt for it. They don't feel like they should be the ones managing their product. But there's no one else, especially at the beginning. You definitely have to do that. So this is totally doable. This is the good news. You can definitely avoid these misunderstandings, this conflict. And what you need to do is first understand and specify properly what you really need before choosing someone, okay? First the needs, then the person. Don't just get any person and then hope that they can satisfy your needs. Start with the needs and then choose someone. And after you've chosen someone, you need to focus on clear communication and your role as a product manager. Now, we already did an episode on this. If you want to check it out, you can. But you cannot ignore your responsibilities as a product manager because that's where a lot of the miscommunication and misunderstandings come from. Okay? Alrighty, that was a long one, but it's all for today. If you enjoyed learning with us and want to see more, consider subscribing. Help us spread the word by hitting the like button and by sharing with your entrepreneur friends. If you have any questions or want to suggest a topic, feel free to comment down below, and you can also check out our website to learn more about our coaching program and how you can join.